Hi guys, this is gsm.com and I'm here with the Lenovo K6 for a full review. This is a $200 smartphone, a mid-ranger that's focused on quality selfies, also good music, and it was launched this fall at IFA 2016. This handset, we're dealing with here, is available in silver, gold or grey, and it comes with a metal shell, a 5-inch screen and a focus on these speakers here with Dolby acoustics and a powerful front camera. Now, as far as the design is concerned, this approach reminds me a lot of the one of the Yumi Touch phone. You go Google it and you'll see that it's very similar in design. It also feels a lot like one of the Meizu phones from the M series. So we're dealing with a metal shell, slightly rounded, unibody approach, well built, and it's got rounded edges at the back side. It's a very comfy phone with excellent one-hand usage. As you can see here, I'm reaching all the areas of the screen that matter with a single hand and without a problem. So comfy, well built, and not very thick at 8.2mm in thickness, and it also weighs 140 grams. It actually feels lighter than the 140 grams I just mentioned, and it's got comfy buttons here on the side. So even though you may not remember this design in the future, it's an okay look and approach in my book, and it's very comfy. Now, as far as the screen is concerned, this is a 5-incher with a surprise full HD resolution. Usually this segment uses HD resolution, well, in this case it's full HD and we're relying on an IPS LCD panel. Since we do not have a video player, I'm going to have to use the famous Google Photos application for that exact task. Now, let's see our usual test video. Here we go. And we achieved a pretty okay brightness, mid-level contrast. We had no problem with the sun, so once again the contrast is solid and the view angles are pretty wide. Other than that, the colors are pretty well calibrated. I cannot say that there is oversaturation here or undersaturation, so pretty good calibration of colors. Now let's see what else we got here. So this is the pixel setup we're dealing with. We got RGB stripes pixels, and when we measure the brightness, we achieved a value of 396 lux units, which is good for a mid-range phone. It surpasses the likes of the LG G5 and the LG V10, for example, but it scores below the Huawei P9 Lite and the Moto G4. Now, of course, we also get special settings for this screen. In the display section, we go here, display, and find the brightness, and also find the color mode, normal or vibrant, wallpaper, sleep, daydream, font size, cast screen, and brightness protection, which changes the screen color in hue and brightness, which makes it suitable for nighttime browsing. So that's it in a nutshell, a pretty decent screen for a mid-range phone. Now, as far as the performance is concerned, we're going to have to address the hardware specs first, so let's start with the processor. What we're dealing with here is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 430 CPU. It's an octa-core unit with a Adreno 505 GPU and also with 2GB of RAM. Of course, that's not very impressive, but the phone handles itself pretty well. There's also 16GB or 32GB of storage and a micro SD card slot. Just so you know, if you have a 16GB version of the phone, you'll only be using around 9.4GB actual space. During my time of using this device, I did not have any problem with lag or functioning. Everything worked out fine. I'm talking about the speed of opening up the apps and using multiple apps at the same time, so absolutely no problem in my book as far as that is concerned. So okay performance. And when it comes to the gaming, we play the game Hopeless 3, but also the famous Riptide GP Renegade, which has become a bit of a fixture here at gsm.com as it's our benchmark game. It's a racing title, became famous this summer, and let's see what a race looks like here. You can already hear those two speakers at the back being solid. We'll get to them in a minute. So quite solid graphics, nicely rendered water, responsive controls, and all the textures seem to be okay. Nice lighting, frame rate, and everything you want is perfectly rendered here. Now that the gaming checks out, it's time to also discuss the benchmarks, and I'm going to cover that relying on a bunch of screenshots. Okay, so screenshots I said. Now let's get to the items. So for example, in Antutu 6 we scored 42,000 points and we beat the Samsung Galaxy A5 2016, which is quite a good feature. And then in Quadrant we were able to beat the Nexus 6P, and also the LG G4, which is not bad at all. And finally, in the benchmark of the gamers benchmark, as the people have been calling 3D Mark, let's see our score there. Not very impressive, this one, I have to admit. In iStorm Unlimited we scored above the Xperia M5 but below the Moto G4, so still a mid-ranger in the end. And in Geekbench we surpassed the HTC Desire 10 Lifestyle, at least, so performance is rather okay, typical for a $200 handset. Now let's see if the temperature is affected in any way by this type of setup. So we achieved 35.3 degrees Celsius after running the game you saw before, Riptide GP Renegade, so there is no overheating here, but the famous GFX benchmark would not run on this phone. We usually also rely on it to measure the temperature. Well, it didn't run, so in the end, no overheating, that's to remember. In spite of the fact we have a 5-inch screen, we get a big battery, 3000 mAh lithium ion, and let's see how our video playback time look like. So we achieved a time of, okay, looking it up here, should be available in a jiffy. We usually measure the HD video playback time in a loop with Wi-Fi on and brightness at 200 lux units. And in the case of the current model, we achieved a time of 8 hours and 6 minutes of HD video playback in a loop. And that's only okay, it's about on the same level as the Orange Dive 71. It beats the OnePlus 3 and the Huawei P9 Lite, but those were a bit underwhelming when it came to the usage of the battery in video playback. So 8 hours and 6 minutes, we expected a bit more, and especially since we scored below the LG AKA and the Acer Liquid Jade Primo. Now, the good test and the good news is that we scored excellently in the PC Mark test. Continuous usage, 8 hours and 20 minutes, it's good enough to beat the Galaxy S7 and Galaxy Note 5, and that tells you everything you need to know. So basically 8 hours of continuous working means it's very good for working at the office for an entire day and having some juice left for home, so you can easily get 1 day, maybe 1 day and a half of usage from this phone. The charging is not bad at all, 1 hour and 59 minutes, and it's better than the iPhone SE at least. Now when it comes to the settings for the battery, nothing fancy here. We go to the power manager, we got the battery saver, can be turned on or off, background app management, and there's also the ultimate power saver, which basically just allows you to call and send messages, and that sacrifices some features. Then there's battery optimization, which is basically the dose feature from Android Marshmallow. Now one of the selling points of the phone is the Dolby acoustic thing, and we got stereo speakers at the back here. And let's see what Google Play Music can deliver in this aspect. Now when you enter Play Music, you're tempted to look up the equalizer. Equalizer is here, and it sends you to the Dolby Atmos separated app, which is quite useful. You got a movie mode, music mode, game mode, voice mode, and a custom area where you can tweak your volume, dialogue, intelligent equalizer, and so forth. Now we close this, we start playing some music, and then we fire it up again. So here we go, music playback here. You just heard a case of muffling, and as you just heard, you can also influence the quality of the playback by using those options, which are felt pretty well, especially as far as the bass is concerned in my book. The actual experience was loud and clear, we had a good bass and all the notes were heard perfectly, but there was a bit of muffling. Luckily there is no case of distortion here, so we got that out of the way. Now we also did some decibel meter test, achieving 83.7 decibels at the front of the phone, 89.2 decibels at the back, so quite a difference, as I said before, muffling, and those are the values achieved when we use our audio test sample. Well, when we use the game you saw before, Riptide GP Renegade, well, we achieved 94.4 decibels, which is huge. It's top 5 2016 and more, and beats the Galaxy S6 and OnePlus One, for example. Still below the BlackBerry Passport, one of the champions. Now the headphones. These are the headphones bundled with the device. They look pretty straightforward, pretty familiar, not very comfy in the ear, I have to say that, and also not very loud, but if you tweak the Dolby app, if you tweak the Dolby app, you should be able to get more out of these headphones. At least the bass is quite good, and with the Dolby on they sound pretty decently, but once again, not being comfy may be a deal breaker for some people. And we also have FM radio, in case you're wondering. It's labeled radio, it's available right here, and I'm pretty happy with the acoustics overall. Now it's time to discuss the camera. So there's a 13 megapixel back shooter here with autofocus and LED flash, and an 8 megapixel surprise camera at the front. I wasn't expecting such a resolution, to be honest. Now if you fire up the camera app, as you can see, not the fastest start in the world, and as you can also see, not exactly your stock camera application. It actually reminds me a lot of what I've seen on a phone we tested recently, the TP-Link Nefos C5 Max. It reminds me a lot. It has a very smart mode that detects the situation automatically, be it night, gourmet, shadow, or things like that. Here we have the options, and we got smart composition, snap mode. You can set up the resolution, but only in vague terms like maximum or normal, aspect ratio, ISO, white balance, metering, triaxial level. You can only film in full HD or HD or standard resolution, and some extra options here. So that's it in a nutshell, not very complex, and the capture modes are Pro, Panorama, Art Nightscape, Artistic HDR, Fast Motion and Slow Motion, with the Pro mode also offering extra tweaks like exposure, ISO, this should be shutter, and this one is the focus and white balance as well. Now as far as the usage experience of the camera goes, we're dealing with a pretty slow capture, reasonably fluid zoom, and the focus is, I would say, mid-level, so not the fastest in the world, also not the slowest. We're done with the UI. It's time to enter the gallery, as usual the Photos app, and see what this camera, or better said the two cameras, produced. So camera, over 100 samples here, and let's start with the ones taken during the daytime. Okay, so it was early December, it was a pretty sunny day, and I was happy with the colors and the clarity. Even though I said I was happy with the clarity, you have to remember that 1 in 15 or 20 shots is blurry. So remember that, and it's only blurry if you're not patient enough to focus properly on the shots. So we have good clarity here, pretty okay color choice, and one of the best aspects of the phone is the selfie quality. I'm happy with the texture of the skin, of the hair, the brightness and the colors. So when it comes to the selfies, I'm pretty happy with the results achieved by this device. It's got an 8 megapixel shooter and it handles everything perfectly. I haven't seen such good skin texture from the Huawei mid-rangers that do a good job in this area. Several more shots, and for some reason it's taking a while to load, which is a mystery to me. Anyway, you can also pull landscape shots with pretty reasonable detail, so not exactly the biggest detail in the world, but also not very shabby. Several more shots, this time a bit more colorful. And if you have the sun in front of you, you may experience some problems, so you better avoid that. In the end, it's very important to focus properly if you want good results from the camera, otherwise you'll wake up with some blurred results. Good colors and lighting overall, nice close-ups and selfies, and if you're patient to focus, the results will come. So this is an example of a good close-up, just to show you what the camera can do. Cannot face strong sun, cannot face dark areas, but in the end I feel that it's below what the latest mid-ranges from Huawei and Asus have to offer. It beats the Lenovo Fab Plus that we tested a while ago, so there is that. For the price, I'm happy with the colors and the selfies, that's it. This is the daytime capture. Now let's see what happens during the nighttime capture. Okay, so we switched areas. We got pretty big street light halos, actually very big, a bit of blur happening here, some blue and violet portions of the image, and the flash may seem okay, but it also distorts the image a bit. The buildings and monuments have nice textures, but we got that problem with the violet and blue hue at the top of the screen, at the bottom of the screen, and in the corners, and I'm not happy with that. I would call the colors decent and the texture of the buildings okay. In the end, it's not very memorable or something to write home about, it's just functional during the nighttime. Now, as far as the videos are concerned, let's see what we're dealing with here. So we film in Full HD MP4 format, 30 frames per second and 20 megapixel bitrate, which is a bitrate, I have to admit, higher than what I was expecting. The image was a bit shaky, the colors are decent but not more. The microphone captured things a bit echoey, as you can hear, but it was probably my fault because I was possibly covering it up. In several other shots, the microphone handled the the acoustics better. Okay clarity and okay exposure change. And let's see another video. Once again, Full HD MP4, no fuss about it. And this one has more colors. There's a bit of burn happening in the background, some strange adjustments of the dynamic range, and some focus loss, unexplained for some reason sometimes. When zooming in, somehow the quality remains okay and you will not lose many details. In the end, the lack of focus may be a problem, and also the burnt background may bum you out, but the clarity and colors remain pretty solid, let's say. During the nighttime, things get totally disappointing. We're filming at 14 frames per second, not by will, because that's the camera setup automatically during the night. 14 megapixel, okay lighting, nice colors, detail loss when zooming in, some wind problems with the microphone, big street light halos, and a very yellowish hue with violet and blue areas, so not very impressive. Nice exposure change, and it's only good for the holiday Facebook videos and pictures, but not more than that during the night. So in the end, you will not be filming concerts with this camera, that's for sure, but you can take a nice set of selfies. Now, as far as the browser goes, we got Chrome, which is pre-installed here, and let's load up gsndom.com. Still loading, and the speed is what I would call mid-range, not very fast but also not very slow. It's got modest benchmarks though. I'm talking about SunSpider and Velamo. This is the stock virtual keyboard with a bit of swipe going on here. And now, as far as the connectivity is concerned, this handset provides you with 4G LTE. It's got a dual SIM setup here, which involves a micro SIM slot and a nano SIM slot, which can also be used for micro SD purposes. We've got Bluetooth 4.0, Wi-Fi BGN, GPS, GLONASS, and active noise cancelling. Somehow NFC could not find its way on the handset. In the dialer section, you will be able to find call settings, and that includes speed dial among others. And the actual calls have a pretty okay volume, not huge, just okay, good noise cancelling and nice clarity. We also did a speed test, and let's see what happened there. So these are the results we achieved. I'm happy with the 4G 91 megapixel download, 45 megapixel upload, so that's nice, but the Wi-Fi was a bummer, 49 megapixel in download, and the 25 megapixel upload. I actually expected more. I recently saw a phone with 400 megapixel download and my expectations were quite high. On the software front, you already guessed it, we're running Android 6.0.1 Marshmallow with a few tweaks. So we got a bunch of skeuomorphic icons here with a bit of iOS 7 nostalgia. The multitasking happens via carousel, and you can close all the apps like this and clean up the memory. The drop-down section includes the notifications and the quick settings with a different from stock setup of the icons. Also extra options like Secure Zone, Screenshot, Superpower, and Supercast, to name just a few. And if you keep the home screen pressed, you'll trigger an area with wallpapers, widgets, preference, and settings. Widgets, basically the stock ones, nothing fancy here. Then we got preference with options for the default launcher, home screen carousel scrolling, home screen settings, transition animation, wallpaper scrolling, drawer settings, layout, page door vertical, sorting, these options, drawer background, and if you change the launcher, if you opt for Android, you get an app drawer. If you opt for Vibe UI, you do not get an app drawer, so that's basically the gist of it. Now, if you go to the settings area, you'll find several familiar options and some extras. So you got connectivity here, display, ringtones and volume, notification center with quite a few useful options. And then we have the feature area, which allows you to trigger some extra features of the phone, doing some stuff like double press of the volume keys when the screen is off to snap a picture. You can double tap when the screen is off to light up the screen. You have the one touch shortcut access, which is basically the floating widget from here with some extra functions, which some people may find annoying and other people may find useful. Okay, aside from that, we have more options like smart scene, fingerprint snap, so you can use the fingerprint scanner as a shutter button for the camera, VR mode switch, dual app profile. You can launch 2 instances of a specified app concurrently and decrease volume tone. You got power manager, apps, memory, users, security, and secure zone management. Basically, you can set up a special area on the phone that can be extra secure. Now, the fingerprint scanner has its own area. Go to security, go to screen lock, nope, not here, fingerprint, continue, screen lock, pin, the usual setup process. Okay, next, and this setup will take a few steps, around 12 of them. And now it's time to actually test the fingerprint. It's been added and you can also use it to take pictures and several other gestures. And now let's see if the fingerprint is able to unlock the screen. At first you'll be required the pin, and only then you can actually get to test it. So here we go. Pushing the finger here, it's unlocked. Let's try it one more time. Let's try it at 90 degrees. And let's try it at 180 degrees. So quite okay, not the fastest in the world, but at least it's very accurate. Now, as far as the pre-installed apps are concerned, I counted them all, and we got 32 apps, which is rather okay, not exactly bloatware-ish. We also have one app search area and several apps that were opened recently as recommendations. And you can uninstall many of the apps, which is always a good thing. Let's see if we can uninstall the Dolby one. Well, not quite, you cannot uninstall this one. It's a very important app. Let's try maybe the file manager. Nope. Not this one. Maybe Google Drive. Nope, cannot be uninstalled. And maybe we can uninstall, let's see, radio. Also nope. So a few of them cannot be uninstalled, even though I bragged about it. Let's try Share It. Aha, finally, good news. So Share It can be uninstalled, at least we can get rid of it. Among the pre-installed apps, we find here several familiar names. We got Chrome, we got Dolby, File Manager, there's Hangouts, there's Maps. We also have the Play Suite, we got Radio here, there's Share It, Sync It, Team Center, and of course YouTube. With Share It, you can share stuff and transfer stuff to other phones. It's a very intuitive system. With Sync It, you'll be able to do some syncing with other devices and back up your stuff. And that's it in a nutshell. In the end, not very many apps, and it's easy to get rid of some of them. It's time for the verdict for the Lenovo K6. So on the Pro side, we got the comfy handset format, the pretty okay display, the fact we don't have any trace of lag here, and the performance is quite decent for such a small phone with not very impressive amount of RAM. The PC Mark result was very solid, so good battery in that area, fast charging, well, fast for the standards of a mid-ranger. We got a high volume and Dolby acoustics, great selfies, and not much bloatware, and pretty solid system overall. Now on the con side, it's not a future-proof phone, and the GFX benchmark would not run. It's also not very generous on the video playback area, so only 8 hours of video playback, could be more. The camera options are a bit vague, we wanted a bit more, and the camera is not exactly very special outside from a few options like the color choice and the selfies, so you will not remember this camera as the years pass by. And also the Wi-Fi could be faster. In the end, this phone, the Lenovo K6, well, we're dealing here with a mid-ranger that's good for the selfies and it's good for continuous usage. Also music, very solid speakers at the back, and it gets a pretty decent screen. It's a phone for fun, and by fun I mean selfies, music, and maybe some movie watching, but not exactly future-proof. So if you plan on keeping it for a few years, maybe opt for something stronger from Huawei or Asus. But if you want selfies, music, and without worrying about the future, this is a $200 phone for you from Lenovo, the K6. This is it from gsm.com. This has been the review of the Lenovo K6 that came at IFA 2016 and was tested now. Bye bye.